What a wonderful view, by the way.
It's good, isn't it?
Because all is white as well. It just looks so pretty.
In the summer, somebody tried to kill themselves from that building over there. So everything was blocked off and everyone was just stood around watching this man just standing on that rooftop.
And action! It's a wrap.
Thank you very much for agreeing
No
to
problem.
be interviewed, whatever that is. We're going to jump straight into it.
Sure.
And I'm going to ask you first, if you were a song, what song would you be?
I'd be this song. It's a tattoo that I have. I chose My World Was Shaken, So What. It's a song from Stephen Sondheim's Sunday in the Park with George. And I have it tattooed on me to remind me that the only thing that matters is just making a decision. You can't change your mind about something once you've done it. Just make a decision and just go with it.
Just go with it.
Yeah, so I hope that would be my song. An intellectual Stephen Sondheim art song.
It's fine. It's fine. We are industry acting related, so there are no wrong answers. And what is your secret?
My secret to what?
Whatever you want to tell.
My secret, I think, is taking things that I can use from anywhere. So I don't only sort of take advice from industry people. I'll also take advice from car manuals and things like that. It's like
car manuals.
It's like always check that you have all the equipment before you start a job. Things like that. And RuPaul. I quote RuPaul constantly to my clients. I think they must be really bored of hearing RuPaul. So it's that. I think my secret, and if I'm good at anything in the world, what I'm good at is putting pieces of puzzles together. And I think that's what I enjoy doing. It took me a long time to work out that that's what I enjoyed doing. And I think that's why I love agenting, because that's what agenting is. It's putting a puzzle together. But I think in life, that's kind of my approach to life as well. I like to kind of... I spend a lot of time being retrospective about my life and looking back and going, oh God, if only I'd done that instead of that, my life would be so different. And then I look at my life and I think, well, actually, I quite like my life and I don't think I would change anything if I had the chance.
That is a good feeling to have.
So I think that's the
Very
secret.
good
Just
feeling.
accept that where you are is where you are and,
just go with it.
And go with it. And if you want to change it, make a change.
A choice again.
Yeah, make a choice and then
Stick
just
with
go
it.
with it.
Good. So you were saying that you take inspiration from different parts. So you think as an industry person, no matter what part of the industry you're at, is it important to have people that are not related to it to ground you?
Oh, it's so important. It's important to understand what advice is. Advice is just one person's opinion, and one of my favourite sayings is, advice is only worth the coffee that you had to pay for to hear it. I spend a lot of time in drama schools, and I often find that particularly graduates or people that are training in the evenings or giving up their time or working towards something, they want a checklist, they want a tick list, and they want you to say to them, do this, 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 and this, and if you do all of this correctly, you'll have success. And it doesn't happen like that. And I've gone into drama schools where I said, do it like this, and the student has said, but last week somebody came in and said, do it like this, which is it? And the answer is you have to be able to kind of take advice from everybody and distill it into what works for you. And I think that can be a real problem, particularly when you're training. It's easy to forget that you're training in a particular school who have a particular idea of what an actor is or what the industry is, and everybody has a different opinion on that. And I think the key is to be able to take all those different opinions and bring it into something that works for you, and then take it from there. I always say to people, if this advice doesn't work, put it on the shelf. Just put it on the shelf, dust it down again in a few years' time and see if it works for you again. I sometimes email my tutors from drama school from 10 years ago saying, remember that day when you gave me this note and we had an argument and I didn't understand it? It made sense yesterday. and it just does, because you get older and the pieces finally fall in shape because you've learned something that they already knew and were trying to tell you, but actually you can only ever learn things yourself.
Your way.
So I think advice is really easily given, easily given, and I think people assume that if you're working in the industry, or we kind of revere casting directors and agents a little less, but we kind of look up to these people. Actually, these people are often just as inexperienced and as tied down to one thing as you are, and you have to be able to kind of say, okay, well, they're coming at that from that perspective. I think we also have a tendency, and I notice this myself within the industry, to live in an echo chamber. So I do tend, simply because Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, they can be really toxic places.
Yes.
And I find myself muting or unfriending people whose opinion doesn't chime with mine, mainly to do with politics.
Yeah.
An industry opinion that doesn't chime with mine, I'm happy to argue it out. Arguing on Twitter is never a good idea, but I'm happy to have a conversation with somebody about it. But I do notice that over time, you kind of reduce your following on Twitter and your following on Facebook and these things to an echo chamber of people that agree with you and support you and to back you up.
In that sense, social media is kind of dangerous in a way.
Social media is terribly dangerous. It's not social. That's the problem. We labelled it social media sort of 10, 15 years ago, and the problem is it's not actually social. It's broadcast media. And I think if people thought about it as being broadcast media, they would think about what they put on Twitter and Facebook slightly differently. I know that I have changed my approach to how I use both those platforms once I kind of realised that actually when you've got sort of a following of 5,000 Twitter followers, you're not talking to your friends anymore. You're talking to people who are following you because you have something to say that they're interested in, and suddenly it becomes inappropriate to start making personal observations. That took me a long time to learn, but I think actors, because they start off with it just being mum, dad, people they're at college with, then a few friends, very quickly that network expands out to casting directors and agents and producers and directors and people working in the industry without you even realising it.
Do you think that it's, I was going to say mandatory, but very important in a way to have all of those social media?
No, not at all. I think you're probably a much healthier person if you don't have any of them. But if you are going to have them and you are going to be using them for industry purposes to make connections or to network with people, then you should be using them in a professional way. If you want a Twitter account where you just, as I do, I have a personal Twitter account where I just shout at the government quite a lot. If you want that and you want a Twitter account where you can go and see a play and actually give your honest opinion of it without worrying that a producer or director might not call you in, then have it, but have it divorced from your professional account, divorced from anything that connects you to the industry. If you're using social or broadcast media for your brand, and I hate using that word, but if you're using it to promote yourself as an actor, keep it professional and think about the fact that you're actually broadcasting to the world every time you say something.
Every time you even retweet something, it says something about you.
It says something about you.
True.
Even the picture that you choose, the profile picture that you choose, the banner picture that you choose, everything, it's your calling card. And sometimes it's the first thing that we see. When people come in here for an interview, I generally look through their Twitter feed, which can surprise them when I'll ask them about, you worked with such and such a person and you got locked out of the rehearsal room. How did that happen? And they're kind of a bit baffled. And it's like, but it's part of what you thought was important enough to tell the world. So I thought was important enough to read and ask you about.
So it is important, but it's not mandatory.
It's not mandatory at all. And people get very upset about it and about whether casting comes down to how many Twitter followers you have. I have worked in casting. I know a lot of casting directors. I absolutely do not believe that if it comes down to one non-talented person with a huge Twitter following and one talented person with a small Twitter following, that anyone in their right mind is going to go for the non-talented person. If it comes down to two extraordinarily talented people, very, very similar, and one can bring a certain number of seats or audience to a small venue, then I think sometimes it might be important, but I certainly don't think it's up there
But it's not one of the first make or break.
No, and again, I think this comes back to the idea that there's a checklist of things that you have to have, or you must do it like this. And if you have Twitter, you have to be using it professionally because somebody's going to look at it and see how many Twitter followers you have, and you're going to get cast. That's not going to happen at all. Maybe down the line, if you're up for something at Southwark Playhouse, and there are two people of exactly the same talent and taste, and one has 14 million Twitter followers, and they're all promising to come to see the show. But I honestly believe that casting comes down to getting the best fit, the right people for the job, and your Twitter following, it doesn't really come into it. Of course, if you're on Twitter and you're slagging off a director or a casting director or a producer, then these are human beings. They're not going to want to work with you if your Twitter feed is full of how much you hate their productions.
Exactly.
And that is completely normal and absolutely within their right to do it. You might be the most talented person in the world, but if you don't like a director's style or way of working and you're vocal about it, why on earth should they call you in? It's not going to happen.
Exactly. And it also comes down to the fact that everyone is saying that, I don't know, casting directors only call their friends. And it's not, I've never thought that it was that. I've always thought that it was, if I know this person, I've worked with them, and I know that they deliver and that they are talented, then why am I not going to call them again?
The thing with casting directors only call their friends in, I think that's absolute rubbish. I did some casting recently, and we had a very short space of time to cast a show, and it was offer only. And so I logged into Spotlight and I did my search for the age parameters and the skill set that I needed, and we drew up our list from that. And then, of course, when you're looking at a list of 60 or 70 people, you then start pulling out names that you recognise, people that you've worked with, people that you know are in shows, so their skill set is currently honed and ready to go. It's not a question of only calling in the same people over and over again. It's calling in people whose CV is demonstrating that they are working at the level that we need them to be working at. And sometimes that can seem like it's the casting director's friends all the time. But actually, if that person is auditioning well and that person is representative of that casting director's taste and they're proud to put them in front of a producer, then they've earned the right to be there.
But I think it's that way in every level of work. If you are going to search for a dentist, of course you're going to ask opinion for your friends to see who they trust, and you're going to go with that. It's not, you're just not going to go to the Yellow Pages and go like, this seems like a nice dude. It's just I
think people do forget that casting directors are professional and have been doing it generally for a very long time. And there's a lot of people on their radar. There's a lot of people on my radar. Every time we get a casting announcement, I will look through the entire cast list and look at their Spotlight CVs. So if you were to come to me in 2 weeks' time and ask for a list of current working actors, I've got a pretty good idea in the recesses of my little grey mind of who's currently in work, because I check this daily. This is what a casting director does all day, every day. It's their job.
It's part of
and
what
they know
do.
what they're looking for. I sometimes have to say to clients, you have to just trust that the casting director has made their choice based on your look and based on your skill set, on your CV.
Exactly. Good. So, going a little bit before, you trained as an actor before becoming an agent. When was it in your life that you just decided that you had to be involved in this industry? When was it, and how did you feel? What was that made you make that choice?
That's interesting. It's interesting because that's a question I always ask new clients when they come in for interview. What was it that kick-started them? I think for me, it does actually change quite a lot, and my story is unusual in that my dad was in the business before me. So I grew up in not a theatrical household, but I grew up in a household where Dad was always auditioning or going off to do gigs, and his agent would come round once a month for lunch on Sunday. So I always kind of grew up in that world. For me, it really kind of started when I was 11, and I went to the London Oratory School and joined the school choir. And from my school choir, I got picked to play a very small part on stage with the English National Opera at the London Coliseum. And from that very small part, the London Coliseum, English National Opera liked me, and I ended up staying with them for 7 years, and I played almost all of the major sort of principal boy roles in opera. And then when I was 18, Nicholas Heitner cast me in a male role, in a tenor role, tiny one line in one of his operas at English National Opera. So I kind of came into this world very, very early and was working professionally from the age of 11. But the further I kind of get away from my life as an actor, the more that I realised that actually what I was drawn to was not necessarily performing. I just fell into it and I was good at it and I stayed doing it because the jobs just kept coming. But what I was drawn to was what I call the tribe of this industry. That's what I loved. I loved being around my dad's agent. I loved watching my dad pack up and go to gigs. I loved that world, that world of the industry. And I remember my very first press night party at English National Opera. And that's what I remember about my 7 years at E&O. I don't necessarily remember my stage performances. I remember running around backstage and spending time in the DSM's office and the company manager's office and just having the run of the place. I was drawn to that tribe. But I think when you're growing up, and for a lot of us, when we are drawn to, when we're slightly different and we feel a bit out of sorts in the mainstream and we're drawn to this world, I think a lot of us see only one path, and that is the obvious path of becoming a performer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I did. I became a performer and I've been in and around the industry for more than 30 years. But I think looking back, what I was drawn to was actually just being part of that world. And I think that's why I'm happiest now that I've been an agent for 5 years than I ever was as an actor, because you never settle as an actor. You're always moving to another job or another company and adopting another family that you're in love with and best friends for life for the 6 weeks of the project.
Exactly.
And then you move on and you're gone. And actually, I think for me, I was more drawn to just working in the industry in some way. But I thought that the only way of doing that was to become an actor. So I think I probably wasted some time by pursuing acting when actually I probably could have become an agent much earlier and been much happier.
When did you actually realise that being an agent was the thing?
I don't think it's ever a moment where you realise that. It had been a progression of moments,
Mm-hmm.
and a progression of not. I feel strongly that not being prepared for the industry as a performer. I feel like I wasn't properly prepared, despite having been in it all my life. And one of the reasons that I feel that is, I think it takes a long time to even sort of feel like you're getting somewhere in this industry. I think it takes 7 or 8 years, and I think most people would probably back me up on that. You look at people like Tyrone Huntley, Cynthia Erivo, people like this who are often called overnight sensations, and you look at their CV and there's a good 7 years of work here, decent, high-profile work, before they hit the big time, whatever that is. And I think for me, that 7-year, 8-year period of work was all very, very low-paid, grinding, depressing work where you're slogging your guts out 6 nights a week for absolutely no money, going to your day job during the day, and just hoping that a casting director or an agent's going to come see this show. And I think I had just got very, very tired. By the end of it, I was in for lots and lots of West End shows for the first time. I was going in for auditions for these. I was getting recalls for these. I shot a feature film. Things were starting to happen, but I think I just got just a bit tired. I was 40 as well, and that was a big sort of. It wasn't a kick, but it was a big kind of look around at my life. I'm in Edinburgh. I'm sleeping on an air mattress that's deflating every night. I'm earning £50 a week and my agent's taking 10%. And you kind of look around and go, this isn't where I thought I would be at 40. And that's when you realise, for me, that actually I had actually done everything that I ever wanted to do. I'd done TV, I'd done film, I'd done stage, I'd done Shakespeare, I'd done musical theatre, I'd done opera, I'd done all of them. I got where I wanted. I was living the dream. It just looked different to how I imagined it.
Yeah.
And then you simply have to kind of look at it and say, is this okay? Is this life that I have, I've got what I want, I am a working actor, it doesn't look how I imagined it was going to be, can I live with that? Is that okay? And I couldn't. I looked around and I was like, I can't. I'm 40. I want things. I want a better quality of life.
Yeah.
I'm okay now to draw a line under this and say, I did it. I gave it my best shot.
Yeah. A lot of people would say that was quitting. And let me just continue. I totally agree, but I want to demystify the word quit. Because whenever you go at it, like you said, you give it your best, you achieve even what you set out to achieve, and then you are not happy, why not give that up and search your happiness, whatever that is? And yours was to become an agent and continue in the industry, but some people just completely let go of the industry and go on to do something else. And I truly believe that we need to take the negative out of quitting just because, oh, you quit, you gave up. No, you just pursued something else.
I think there is that word quitting, and I think it's tied up not only with, being an actor in the first place is tied up with your self-worth. And it shouldn't be, but it is. Someone is paying you to be an actor. That then becomes part of your self-worth of, am I really an actor if I'm not being paid X amount, and so on. And it becomes very, very difficult to divorce the two. You're an actor, first and foremost, when you wake up in the morning, you're an actor if you say you're an actor. Whether someone is paying you for your talent and time and expertise, that's a whole different ballgame. Some great actors are not being paid for their work. Some not very good actors are being paid a lot of money for their work. Divorce the money side of it first. Once you do that, then it comes back to exactly your point of, is this making me happy? We are here for, if we're lucky, like 90 years maximum. And during that time, we should enjoy it as much as we can. And if it's not making you happy, and it wasn't making me happy, then I don't see any point in holding out for something that might make me happy if there's something available that I know will make me happy and I can earn a living from. That's quite important to me, and it gets important to people. But I think the word quitting, it's tied up with so many other things. And for me, it was tied up with, I'm 40, I've been doing this for nearly 30 years. All of my savings, all of my money, all of my parents' money, all of my friends and family, everything has gone into making me an actor. And I held on for years when I was unhappy because I was worried about upsetting other people, or other people saying to me, I spent all that money on your singing lessons, dance lessons, dance clothes, drama school training. I spent all that money on you and you're just quitting. The only person it really matters to is you, and I wasn't happy. And as soon as I moved away from it, directors that I've worked with, casting directors that I've known for years now tell me how much happier I am and how much calmer I am since I moved away from that desperation. I think once, again, back to this, I chose and my world was shaken. Once you make the decision to go and do something else, here's the biggest secret. The industry is not going to stop just because you go and do something else for a while. And when I was dithering about it, and when I wasn't really sure, Stephen Beresford, who wrote Pride, which was the feature film that I did, and who's got Fanny and Alexander about to open at the Old Vic at the moment, he said to me, the industry's not going to go anywhere if you decide to take a few years and go and pursue something else. It will still be here when you come back, and it will still be as hard. And I think once you realise that, then you realise it's okay to go and pursue other avenues. I have clients that I took on in musical theatre 5 years ago who now only work in physical theatre, or who've given up the industry altogether, or who've become directors or writers. Because, again, it's back to this idea that I think people are drawn to join this industry. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be performers, but that's just the most visible way of getting into the industry. And once people start to discover other things that they can do in this industry that make them happy and maybe pay their rent, it becomes an easier thing to talk about letting go. And I think that's a much better way of looking at it than talking about quitting. I pursued it, I let go of it, and I promise you, you get another dream the next morning when you wake up. My dreams and my ambitions today if you'd asked me when I was an actor, they probably would have been, well, I'm going to be the next Branagh, and now they're not at all. And I don't sit there thinking, I could have been. I don't at all. I now think about what I might become now and what I might do now.
Yeah.
The great thing about a dream is you always get more. You don't have to pursue one blindly. And I think people very often feel a sense of responsibility to their parents and to the fact that it's all they've ever wanted to do.
Yes,
and suddenly they wake up one morning and they're like, oh my God, it's not really what I want to do. But I'm 24 and I've talked about this for 24 years. What are people going to think if I suddenly say, I've changed my mind? You're allowed to change your mind.
Exactly. Good. I trust that. I completely agree with that. And that's why I want to demystify the word quit, because I don't think it's a bad thing if you're doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And growing up and now, who would you say were your inspiration / goal?
I have, and I think every actor should have this, I think everybody should have this, I call it a Jedi Counsel. And I have a group of, and they're not all older than me, because, I'm getting on now myself, so it'd be hard push to find a group that were all older than me. But they're generally people who are more mature, who've been doing what they're doing in this industry for a lot longer than I have. And when I have a decision to make, I go to my Jedi Counsel and I'll run it by them. And there are 7 or 8 of them, depending on what I'm talking about. There might be some people that I go to ask for specific advice on a specific area. But there's 7 or 8 of them who I admire, and I will get 7 or 8 different opinions on what I should do.
That's per usual.
Yeah, but I think the people growing up, the people that I was always drawn to, the people that I always admired most were people like Kenneth Branagh, who seemed to just do everything. They set up their own theatre companies, they directed, they made films, they were on stage, they wrote, they adapted, people like that. Kenneth Branagh, Emma Thompson, Michaela Cole is a huge inspiration to me at the moment. It's people that are not tying themselves down to one thing, who are saying, okay, I'm going to go and try something else. Okay, I'm going to go and do something else. That's who I think it's who I'm attracted to as an actor as well. I look for, and they're often not the easiest clients to place, but I do look for people that have other skills and other interests, because I think if this is your entire life and your entire focus, you're going to go pretty crackers quite soon. Yeah. You need other things around you just to widen out that echo chamber.
Yes, completely agree. That's why I think it's really important to also have friends that are not at all related with the industry, because they will tell you things and they will have a perspective of the world that your acting friends don't have.
Yeah.
Because all in the acting industry, all we talk about is the play and the grinding and this and that, and it's like, okay, I need to step away from that a little bit.
We talk. It's as if we live in a sort of gossip column, really, and we all know all about each other, and we can sit here in the office scandalised about something that's happened that we've read about on Twitter that affects one person that we know who told another person that we know, and we're all sitting there waiting. And if I ring my best friend who lives in Hong Kong and I talk to her about it, she has never heard of these people. She has no interest in these people, and will honestly remind me, it's not important. And it isn't. We do get really caught up in, oh my God, this is... And it's back to this reverence of people. If I was to mention the names of sort of top casting directors in the industry that most actors would give their right limb to be seen by, if I was to say that to my friend who lives in Dublin and is a teacher, or my friend who lives in Hong Kong, they wouldn't have any idea who I'm talking about, and they wouldn't care.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
It's you have to kind of be able to step away from the intensity of this industry and just kind of chill out on a beach somewhere with somebody who doesn't have any idea what you're talking about.
Yes. And as an agent, what is the hardest part of your job?
Getting up in the morning.
Are you not a morning person?
I am a morning person. That's the problem. I get up around about 5:30.
Oh Lord. Okay.
So yeah, there are lots of hard parts. And I'm going to sound really ungrateful if I start talking about the hard parts of my job, because actually I love all of it. And even the hardest part, I think one of the hardest things to do is let somebody go, because it's very rarely that I'm letting somebody go because I don't believe in them. It's that I have to, and again, it comes down to arrogance and it comes down to my opinion of myself. But sometimes I have to let people go because I'm clearly not the right agent for them.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been able to get them in the right rooms. I haven't been able to get them in front of the right people. And I'm desperately holding on to them because I want to prove something to myself.
Yeah.
And that's not helpful for them. But so, an actor doesn't often see that way. If I'm letting go of people, I always try and say that this is, a positive step for your own career. But I understand that sometimes it doesn't come across like that. Telling somebody they haven't got a job when they've been in for 6 or 7 recalls and 4 or 5 finals, and then to turn around and say it didn't go your way, that's hard. There are times when I step outside and have a cigarette and a little cry in the street. But all of this is just part and parcel of the job. You have to be used to that. You have to kind of not allow that to wash over you, but it can't be your focus. You can't get bogged down in that. And I can't let my actors get bogged down in that. The result of an audition is not a binary outcome. It's not I got the job, success, I didn't get the job, failure. There are thousands of variables within that. It's like, look, you got to finals, you impressed the casting director, they're going to call you in for something else. It might be better than this job. There are so many variables. All you can do is present your best work on the day and hope that it connects with the panel.
Yeah.
But again, it's back to actors. It's tied up with our self-esteem. So we don't hear you didn't get the job for 1,000 different reasons.
You
we
just
simply
hear
hear
you're not
you're a
good
failure.
enough.
You're not good enough.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give you any money. You need to go and steal a loaf of bread to But that's basically the plot of Les Miserables.
Pretty much.
Maybe Victor Hugo was an out-of-work actor.
Maybe. And on the other hand, what is your favorite part?
Telling someone they've got a job. That's by far. Sometimes I record it on my phone. If it's someone I know who struggled, someone I know who struggled and who's been through an arduous and grinding audition process, sometimes when I ring them to tell them that they've got the job, I'll have them on speakerphone so everyone in the office can share in the joy. That is my favourite, absolutely my favourite thing to do. My second favourite thing to do, and maybe it's because I'm doing it a lot at the moment, my second favourite thing to do is talk to graduates. I love talking to new graduates. I find them exhilarating and exhausting in equal measure, but there's so much excitement and so much promise. I love talking to new guys about to come out into the industry.
You still have a fresh outlook.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than going to one of those actors' pubs and sitting around with a load of jaded actors bitching about why their career didn't make a choice, stick to it. You are where you are. That's really all we can hope for. And yeah, sometimes I just need to kind of remind myself that the industry is exciting and it is thrilling and anything can happen. You can wake up on a Wednesday morning and it'd be completely snowy outside and you just want to stay in bed and your agent can ring and say, can you get on a plane to Budapest tonight? I've seen it happen, anything, your day can change. That's the excitement of this industry for me. I love being that person that can ring somebody and say, this is a big change is coming. And for me, being 45, I can now kind of look back and see how all the little decisions that I made in my life led to one thing. I think that's harder for a 21-year-old to see. And sometimes that's part of the journey, realising that maybe this didn't work out for you, maybe this did, maybe this will be life-changing, maybe it won't. Maybe the fact that you stepped into a newsagent to buy a newspaper in the morning is going to be life-changing for you. You don't know. Yeah. Every decision has the potential to change your life in ways that you can't comprehend. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next week, but down the line. And I know that from personal experience. I know that from the feature film that I shot, Pride, which I only got because Stephen Beresford, who wrote it, used to drink in a pub that I owned 20 years ago and saw me do drag 20 years ago and rang me and talked to me about this film, this part of a drag queen in there. 20 years, a decision that I made 20 years ago influenced something that I'm very proud to have been a part of 20 years later.
That is amazing. Wow. So, compose it again. What is a normal day for you? As in, we know that you probably get here, take your coat, turn your computer on, and
Somebody asked me this the other day. They asked, what's your normal routine? I don't really have a routine because every day can be very different. But a normal day, I get up somewhere between 5 and half 5. I'll play with my dog. I'll potter around the house. I'll sit in my garden and smoke too many cigarettes for that time of the morning. I'll just get myself in a headspace for the day. I like to try and start my day, so my 9:30 opening hours. I like to try and start that with as clear an inbox as I possibly can. So from the time I'm up in the morning, I'm clearing anything that's come through overnight. I'm flagging anything that's come in during the day, and I'm setting myself up for the morning. When I get here, that's any jobs that couldn't be covered from my bath or my living room. I'll finish those off so that I can start at about 9:30 with as clear an inbox as I can get to. And then when the day starts, we have 10 agents here, and I'm the operations manager for the company. So my day is spent, a lot of it is spent just kind of moving around from agent to agent, chatting to them, maybe making an appointment with them later in the day to help them with a problem, or just giving some advice, but just checking in with them, seeing how things are going. We're a young, vibrant, and exciting company, and I want to kind of, I'm quite new in this position now, so I need to be kind of checking in with everybody and seeing what jobs they've got going on, what are they excited about, how can I help?
Yeah.
Are they feeling that they're doing this on their own? We have a lot of people here with a lot of expertise. So I'm trying to put pieces together, and I'm suggesting, why don't you go and chat to so-and-so who might have an answer to that problem. Yeah. So a lot of my day is just general sort of human resources, for want of a better word, and management. And a lot of it is spent at my desk, making submissions, making phone calls, making emails, following up emails, checking contracts, checking invoices, making sure people get paid, all of the sort of day-to-day stuff. And then my evenings are generally spent with directors or producers or at the theatre, or watching TV, watching how casting is changing, particularly in TV and film, looking at casting directors who I have a good relationship with, catching up on their work, being invested in what they're doing. And that's, the next day I'll generally pick up the phone and ring one of them and say, I caught an episode of such and such a programme last night, and I'll chat to them about what it was like to work on that and why they made those choices. Sometimes I'll watch TV with my spotlight open so I can see how the role was briefed out and how that casting director has actually interpreted that briefing and who got the role in the end and stuff like that. So my evenings, and I live with 2 actors, both of whom I represent, so my evenings are very much spent continually sort of talking about this, working on this, back in that echo chamber again.
So do you ever stop, just pause from all of this?
I did. I've not taken a holiday in a very long time, and this time last year, my husband and I had a delayed honeymoon. We got married 2 years ago, and we went on honeymoon last year, and we had decided that it would be work-free, completely work-free. And the day before we flew, my husband presented the first version of the musical that he's just written, The Wicker Husband, and it was presented at the Other Palace in an industry showcase. And so he spent the entire honeymoon dealing with emails and people responding to that showcase. And as we got to the airport, I received an email from a Broadway actor who's a friend of mine asking me to produce his London show for him. So my honeymoon, my half of the honeymoon, was spent working on that. So our week off that we had decided we weren't going to do any work became a week of work. Yes.
Okay.
I do try and get Sunday for myself to walk the dog and spend time with my husband, and very rarely happens like that. And even if it does happen like that, my husband is an actor, so we'll be walking the dog and he'll be saying, so what do you think of my new headshots? Just make an appointment.
Stop now.
But I love it, and I was brought up in it, and I know that it has to be all consuming, but I also know that you have to have a life away from it. I don't I don't know how actors juggle that. I never managed it. I never managed to juggle those two aspects of my life, a life completely away from this echo chamber of the industry and a life completely absorbed and obsessed by it.
Right.
And that's a problem. And I think that's a problem that a lot of us have in the industry, that we come into it because we're obsessed, we're fascinated, we're in love with it, and it becomes all-consuming, and we need to kind of step away. I used to go running, I don't anymore. I used to go to the gym, I don't anymore. If I was applying for a new job today and I had to fill in a section that asked me to describe my hobbies, I would be really hard pushed. I've started reading again.
Okay.
So I read books now, and that's my way of switching off. And I do try and meditate, and that's my sort of 10 minutes of turning
Freedom.
everything off. Yeah.
Okay. So you told me about your routine. And
Or lack of.
lack of. And if you had to let all of that go, what would be the one thing that you would keep with you that you do on a daily basis? And please don't say be with my husband or walk my dog.
The one, if I had to get rid of everything and only keep one thing, it would be going to the theatre. That would be the one thing that I would keep. I think it's fundamental for an agent. I think it's fundamental for an actor. I think most careers are built with a solid stage foundation. It's my preference that actors have a solid stage foundation in their career, and I love going to the theatre. So that would be the one thing that I would keep. Probably still continue to go to the theatre as much as I do.
Because you go pretty much almost every day, every couple of days.
It can be like that. You can get times where you are out every single night, and again, you have to be able to step back and you have to kind of say, no, tonight I'm just going to go home and get under my duvet. Particularly on days like this,
Yes.
Yeah.
It's completely snowing.
And there's a difference between going to the theatre because you have to and going to the theatre because you want to. So I do have to kind of factor that in as well. If I'm only going to make 3 trips a week, 2 of them are going to be work trips, events that I have to go to. I'm always going to try and get at least one in that's just for me, that'll be a show that I want to see that maybe doesn't have a client in, or that I want to see that maybe has no kind of area of interest for me, but I'm just interested in it. I do try and get at least once a week to go and see something.
Do you go to the movies as well, or just...
I went to the movies this weekend, and it's been a long time since I went to the movies. I went to see Black Panther, and it did kind of feel, again, like everything, I think any agent, casting, anybody in this industry will say the same thing. It's a double edge. You're going because you want to go, because it's your day off, but also you're going for very particular reasons. And I was going to see Black Panther, not because I'm a massive superhero fan. I do seem to have seen every superhero film that's ever come out, but I'm not a big fan of them. They're not my genre, they're not really my world. But I wanted to see Black Panther because of the discussions that are taking place in the industry about gender and about diversity, and this Black Panther encapsulates everything that we are talking about at the moment. These are roles that the women's roles could be men's roles, the men's roles could be women's roles. There's no kind of feeling that anybody's character is secondary or less important. There's no women talking about how much they're in love with Black Panther and why doesn't he look their way. Everybody has agency in this film, and everybody has their own character, and it doesn't seem to be subservient to another character. Plus the diversity in it is just, it's what we've been crying out for. Massive
finally
diversity
made
in it. And people do kind of look at it and say, well, it's not very diverse, that they're all people of colour. There's huge diversity in that. In the same, there is massive diversity in that film. Just because they're not all Caucasian does not mean it's not a diverse cast. It's massively diverse, and it was really exciting to see it. And actually, it might have reignited my love for superhero movies if they're all going to be like that.
Yay!
I just don't want women kind of running around being set dressing
to
hand the good guy a gun or to be rescued. And this film isn't that at all. Everybody has their own agency and power in this film. It's an extraordinary moment.
I haven't watched it yet, but yes, I want to. Simply because I have said my boyfriend is not acting or industry related in any way. And I told him, we are only going to see Black Panther when you go and see The Greatest Showman with me. So now he's at that part where he's digesting because he has to go and see. I do like, and I really do like superhero movies, but I need to do this. Everyone is a direct result of your daily choices.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the one, it is actually snowing, sorry. So what is your daily choice that makes you you?
I don't know. I think I'm very much a product of London.
Mm-hmm.
I sometimes, my husband is from the Forest of Dean, and I find it baffling to grow up with just his stories. It's like Enid Blyton to me. I think I'm very much a product of London. I think I'm very much very, very shaped by coming into the industry at a very young age, at 11, and experiences that I've had throughout the industry have made me. And my choice daily is to be that person, if that makes sense, to accept that the tattoos, the piercings, the handlebar moustache, the tension that comes with being a Londoner, the classlessness almost that comes with being a Londoner. I live in an extraordinarily diverse area. I love it, and I always have. I live now 5 minutes from where I was born, which seems odd to me that it's taken sort of 45 years for me to kind of circle back to that.
Go back.
But I'm very much a product of my upbringing and my surroundings and my education. And I think my choice every day is to be that person. And this sounds so wanky, but I could get up every day and I could be the type of agent who puts on a suit and goes to work and be that type of agent. I'm not. This is who I am, and it's all I know how to be.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure that if you picked me up and set me down in an agency in Wales or in the Forest of Dean that I would.
It would work.
It would what I do and who I am. I'm not sure it would work on that scene there, but I'm very much shaped by being part of the London scene for 30 years, and of all those things, of being a drag queen and being a publican, and it's in my blood to be flamboyant and showy. And I think, again, that brings me back to my idea that I got into this industry because I wanted to be the centre of attention. I'm not saying that's true of all actors, but I think I can look back now and kind of identify that actually I was a very look at me kind of kid. And I got into, and I think that's still who I am today. I like to dress up when I go to a press night. I like to wear floral suits and put some extra twirl into my moustache. and I think part of that is that whole look at me. I should not be the focus at all. It should always be my clients that are the focus. But there's something about me that says, hey, this is who I am. And I've chosen to have the tattoos and the piercings and the facial hair. I've chosen to be that almost caricature, that trope. Mm-hmm. This is the theatrical agent trope that I am buying into, and it's just who I am. But that is still a choice every day to kind of wake up and not worry about rolling my sleeves down in case I offend somebody, which was a big thing for me for years. And whenever my mother sees me, she'll always say, "Well, you've had a new one, have you? Would you not cover that up in case?" And it's my identity, and it's been built from 45 years of being a Londoner, I think, mm-hmm. and working in this insane industry. We're so accepting, we're so inclusive, and that's what I was drawn to, I think, as a little kid. And I feel relieved that I can be myself every single day.
So it's the choice you make is to stay true to you.
Yeah, I think that really is the choice that I make. It really is snowing now, isn't it?
It really is snowing.
Wow.
Yes, it is. I love it. I'm sorry. I'm from a sunny country and I've never seen a city covered in snow, so I'm like...
And we don't get it very often, so enjoy it.
So what would you say was the things that you had to give up for this career, for this path?
Oh, there's a question. You all have to give up something. I would. It's naive to think that you can have it all in this industry. It really is. But I think that the thing that you have to do is you have to make a decision about what you are prepared to give up. And at 40, I wasn't prepared to spend any more years living on a tin of baked beans a day and walking to my promo job because I couldn't afford to get the tube. That was, for me, that was what I was not prepared to give up. But for years, I was. And for years I did live like that. And for years I was prepared to be single. Because it's very difficult to be in a relationship in this industry as well. And for years I had made that decision that to do this I would have to give up being in a long-term, stable, settled relationship. I've had to give up my idea of owning a flat in the city that I was born in. We all make sacrifices. There are things that we have to give up in order to pursue this. And I think it simply comes down to the individual. What is the step too far for you? What are you not prepared to give up?
So
and
what
then
are
you can
you
fight.
not prepared to give up?
I think I would find it difficult to. There was a time when I thought I wanted to go and live in New York, and I think I would find that difficult now. I think I would find. I have a dog, and just that alone makes it. You're giving up so much by having a dog. It's like planning a holiday is a nightmare. But I do think that travel was one thing that I gave up very early, and I've never kind of re-got that bug, but I've never kind of developed that instinct for travel or that desire to go travelling. I'm a homebody. I love everything I need is in London. I find it difficult to relocate, I think, which might be quite difficult for my husband a bit further down the line.
Yeah.
But at the moment, my career is here and this is where we are stable and settled. Who knows? Ask me in 10 years. Because it does change, and the lines that you draw in the sand, you'll cross out in a couple of years' time because life has an unexpected way of forcing decisions on you.
True. Good. We are almost at the end. So these two kind of link together. What type of jobs do you go for now? Are you just focusing on agenting, or are you having your mindset in producing and all of those things?
I don't think anybody stays still, ever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know any actor that stays still and just acts. They write, they do yoga, they teach, they do all kinds of different things. And I think actors sometimes find that difficult to understand how all of that fits into their acting. Oftentimes we can see all of those different avenues as being completely separate. Actually, they're not. You're one person. It's all housed in one person. And for me, agenting is one part of what I do. I write, and I am currently developing a musical that's in very early stages. And I've produced some things before in the past, and at the moment I'm really happy doing what I'm doing. And I say this to all my clients, should an opportunity arise that seems too good to be true, you should wander off the path for a bit. And because I think that's where the most interesting work happens and where the most interesting self-work happens, when you get off the path that you're so fixedly on and go for a little wander in the woods and find, a field of bluebells or a little pond that you can sit at for a while. And it's the same with producing. I wander off and I produce something and I come back to agenting. I wander off and I write something and I come back to agenting. I wander off and I teach or coach and I come back to agenting. Mm-hmm. And who's to say that one day I might not wander off on one of those paths and continue wandering? Yeah. That's life. You go where the river takes you.
So what is your goal, your dream right now?
My dream right now is I would like to still be at Simon&How in 10 years' time, and for us to be one of the, absolutely one of the top agents that people are considering. And I'd like to drive the development of the company forward like that and drive my own development. I'm learning every single day what I'm doing, and now I started here 5 years ago as a junior agent, became senior agent, and then became head of department, and now I'm operations manager for the whole company. And I want to kind of continue driving the development of the company on. I want to write. I want to get the book that I have finished. I want to have the time to re-edit that and get it published. I want to write the novel that I've been working on for too long. I want to see the musical that I'm developing. I want to see that put on. I want to see my clients continue to grow in their work, and for them to find new avenues and areas. I'm going where the river takes me. That's my philosophy that I've come to be happy with. That I'm happy where I am, and I'm happy just kind of moving along and pushing things forward. Should an incredible opportunity come my way, I would take it. But I think I would always circle back around. And that's the circle of life, that really is. And I look back over 45 years, and I go, every time I left the industry to go and do something else, I came back. I came back in a slightly different way, or a slightly different genre, or a slightly different medium, but I always came back. I always came back. And now I'm just happy with that. I work in the industry. That's it. That's all. That's what I say to people. I work in the theatre industry, and that encompasses all the different things that I do and all the different things that I love doing. And again, it's every decision I've ever made. I was a teacher for a few years, and now I love teaching students and graduates and clients who'll come in here of a weekend to go through audition pieces. I love that. I couldn't do that if I wasn't a qualified teacher. Yeah. I like writing. I wouldn't do that if I hadn't been the editor of a drama magazine for a few years. Everything, I get to do everything right now. And I'm really happy with that.
Because of your experience as well.
Yeah.
Good. So I know you said you haven't traveled much, but I want to know, and these are just, throw around, your favorite place that you've visited and your favorite food. Because favorite food says a lot about a person.
My favourite place ever is New York. I love it. I absolutely love New York, but it's exhausting. Even when I'm only there for a few days, I'm just knackered because I just try and do so much. And also the energy of the place just is exhausting. I love Italy. I've travelled a lot around Italy. I toured around Italy, and it's a beautiful country. And my favourite food is pizza. So that was, win-win for me. And now I think I love getting away when I can, and whether that's getting away just to a sort of quiet area of Finsbury Park, or there's a path that goes from Finsbury Park Station up to Crouch End, and I love walking that, and it feels like you're out in the country. If that's the only getting out of London that I can manage, I love that. I do like time just to walk and to just be away from things. And despite all of the work that we did, our honeymoon in Spain was wonderful. I just laid by the pool and the beach for a week, and it was
awesome.
Something I never thought I'd do, and I found it blissful, and I needed it.
Good. What would be the advice that you would give that you usually give?
So many. Survive. I think survival is overlooked in terms of importance. Just survive. You're living the dream every single day that you're doing this, whether you are going to work in a coffee shop and reading a play by night or going to the theatre by night. If you're waking up every day and you're an actor, you just happen to not be acting at the moment, you're living the dream. Just enjoy it and just keep going, just survive. There's no race. There's nowhere to get. There's no one to beat. So take your own time with it. And if that means going away from it for a while, go away from it for a while. And for you, that means laser focus on it, then be laser focused on it. But it's only for your own benefit. No one else is watching. No one else is caring. Just enjoy the journey. We're all only here for... It sounds so ridiculous to say we are here for a short time, but we are.
We are.
And I honestly, when you look back over your life, that's when things make sense. The greatest tragedy is we can only live life forward but only understand it backwards. It's only when you look back that things make sense. And just make sure that you're looking back on great memories, on things that you enjoy doing. And if you're not looking back on that, then really question whether it's making you happy and whether you're going to continue surviving and keep it going. But I think for most people, it's just keep going. If you're happy, keep going. Survive.
Just keep swimming,
as
Dory says.
The race, there's no race. But even if there was a race, it's won by the tortoise and not the hare. Just enjoy it.
Yeah, true. And lastly, what was the question that you've always wanted to be asked and no one ever asked you?
I've done a lot of these, and I honestly think I've been asked everything. At one point, I've been asked everything. I often get asked, what do I regret? And that's an answer that would have changed various times over the years. And this is what's interesting. If you'd asked me at 35, if you could go back and change something, would you? I would have. If I was given that option at 35, I would have gone back and I would have changed certain things. At 45, I wouldn't change anything, because it might have taken me a little bit longer to get to a place where I feel comfortable in myself and happy in myself and in what I'm doing, but I got there. And I got there because of every bad decision and every good decision. So no, now I wouldn't go back and change anything, because life has brought me to somewhere that I'm all right with. But if you'd asked me at 35, I would have given you a whole list. Regret is completely pointless. It really is. Just wait it out. Things get better, and then they get worse, and then they get better.
Very good.
And that's life.
Good. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.